Some of us have been deeply concerned about the Chagos giveaway for over a year. Concerned on many levels. One, it's going to cost us a fortune. Two, it's wholly unnecessary. And three, Diego Garcia, the big American military base, is very important to them and seems to me is one of the things that we give as part of the special relationship. Not to be trusted under Mauritius. That's the view that I've had. Well, it's taken Americans quite a long time to wake up to this. Yeah, I guess they've had other big things going on with the Middle East, Ukraine war, Venezuela, Iran. I get it. Now, over the course of the last couple of weeks, we've seen a couple of tweets from Donald Trump expressing concern. But one man is going to be perhaps crucial in this. Now, remember, the government told us at the beginning, if the Americans objected, the deal would be dropped. Here was David Lammy a year ago.
Well, if President Trump doesn't like the deal will not go forward. And the reason for that is because we have a shared military and intelligence interest with the United States. And of course they've got to be happy with the deal or there is no deal.
Could not be clearer, but Republican Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana was explaining this on the floor of the Senate the other day.
Mr. Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, has decided that he wants to give the Chagos Islands with our military base to Mauritius. The only reason he's doing this is because he feels guilty because the United Nations has said that the United Kingdom should be ashamed of its history and ashamed that that it one time owned colonies. I'm sorry he feels guilty. He needs to go buy an emotional support pony.
Well, I'm very pleased to say that after that magnificent performance, Senator Kennedy joins me live down the line right now.
Right, so picture this. A Louisiana senator, famous for his drawl and his knack for absolutely eviscerating people on the Senate floor, just looked at our Prime Minister's grand plan for the Chagos Islands and said, and I quote, "The rocks in my driveway are smarter." Not exactly the international praise Keir Starmer was hoping for, is it? And here's the kicker, this wasn't just a throwaway insult. Senator John Kennedy didn't just mock the plan. He personally rang up Donald Trump, changed the president's mind, and is now orchestrating a full-blown diplomatic intervention to stop Britain from what he calls one of the dumbest decisions he's ever seen. Welcome to British News Unfiltered, where we're diving into the absolute car crash that is the Chagos Island sovereignty deal. And trust me, before we're done, you'll understand why a senator from Louisiana cares more about British strategic interests than our own government apparently does. Oh, and do me a favor, smash that subscribe button and hit the notifications bell, because this story's got more twists than a political thriller, and you won't want to miss what comes next.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. We're just enjoying very much what you had to say. It's taken America quite a long time to wake up to the potential threat to Diego Garcia, the non-nuclear treaty, for example, that Mauritius has signed up to. John Kennedy, can you turn the tide over there in America and get a formal letter written to the British Prime Minister to say, we don't want Diego Garcia threatened? Can you do it?
Every time you're online, your money and your identity are at risk. Scams now make up nearly 40% of all crime in the UK. That's thousands of attacks every single day. In Britain, someone has their identity stolen every 2 minutes, leaving victims with wrecked finances and years of stress. The threat is real, and you could be next. ExpressVPN is your shield against criminals. It locks down your devices, hiding your financial details from hackers, scammers, and anyone else looking to exploit you. So whether you're checking your bank, shopping, or just browsing, ExpressVPN makes you invisible to prying eyes trying to steal your money and your identity. ExpressVPN shields your data with military-grade AES 256 encryption. That's the same standard trusted by the US government to guard classified information. This is the highest level of online security you can get. So don't wait for disaster. Secure up to 14 devices at once and get powerful password protection. Real support is available 24/7 because cybercrime never sleeps. Save up to 73% on annual plans today. Every moment you hesitate is another moment you're exposed. Protect your money and protect your identity. Get ExpressVPN right now.
Well, I certainly hope so, Mr. Farage. I don't make a habit of interfering in the affairs of the United Kingdom. I have great respect for the United Kingdom, Great Britain, and Northern Ireland. All 70 million of you. I lived in your country. I went to school in your country. But this decision by the Prime Minister, it affects America. It certainly affects the good people of the UK. You did a good job of explaining why it's nonsensical. I honestly don't know why Prime Minister Starmer insists on doing this, other than the fact that he does. He feels guilty because the United Kingdom says the good people of the UK ought to feel guilty for their history. I think the people of the United Kingdom should feel gratitude and pride for their history. But I talked to President Trump 2 days ago. Now, when the president first agreed with the Prime Minister to let this go forward, I had given a number of speeches on the Senate floor. I called the president and I said, Mr. President, with respect, you're making a huge mistake. He said, well, my advisors tell me to do it. I've never given up. And then a week or so ago, the president reversed himself. And 2 days ago, I called the president and said, Mr. President, please don't back up. Don't back up. Go forward, write the letter. I talked to Secretary of State Marco Rubio yesterday, in fact, and said, Marco's an old friend. Please tell the president to be firm. Marco explained to me that a conversation is going to be had or will be had shortly between the Prime Minister and the President. And I just, for the sake of the American people, but also the good people of the United Kingdom, Mr. Starmer, if you're listening to this, please, please, please don't give away the Chagos Islands. As I said in my speech, it's dumb. I have rocks in my driveway that are smarter than what you're proposing to do.
John Kennedy, thank you very much for that comment. And I tell you what, on behalf of British taxpayers, for whom this deal could cost us up to 50 billion sterling, thank you very much indeed for your continuing efforts. And we'll speak to you again on this subject. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you, dear sir.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm joined in the studio by Sir Ronald Jaya-Wardner and Joe Phillips, my regulars on a Tuesday evening. He has a great turn of phrase, doesn't he?
He does, doesn't he? Very Louisiana. Yes, indeed.
Not just the accent, but the turn of phrase.
Yeah.
I mean, this deal, it's a dreadful deal for everybody.
Well, that's as maybe. Why did Marco Rubio, his friend Marco, say this is a great deal? It's magnificent. David Lammy made it utterly clear, as you've just shown, Nigel, saying the government would not go ahead with it if
Do you know why Rubio supported it? Because Jonathan Powell went round America relentlessly telling anyone that would listen that we had no option. By law, we had to give away the sovereignty of these, and it wasn't true. It was a lie.
It may well be, but, the Americans are perfectly independent and perfectly capable of using their own lawyers, and John Kennedy just said it, their own advisors to go through that. They were members of the UN who voted, and this goes back years. I mean, I think there are very many questions here. One is, why did this government, our government, bring it back after David Cameron, when he was Foreign Secretary, stopped it?
Yeah.
We know because we...
Despite the Tories starting the negotiations.
Yes, exactly. So we know it's, it is not to lay the blame on one particular party. We also know that the UN was not a binding thing, but it does go back...
It was purely advisory.
Yes.
There was a Russian judge voting, a Chinese judge voting.
But the Americans could have seen that. And this is the bit that I don't buy, Nigel, that if, in whatever it was, May last year...
They were bamboozled.
They were, well, then they're even...
I promise you...
They are thicker than the rocks on his driveway.
Well, as I said, they had other priorities. They had other foreign policy priorities. This was nowhere near the top of the in tray. Now, I mean, thanks to John Kennedy, it is now rising up the agenda. But, of course, the one that we haven't talked about, the United Nations, one of their courts, the United Nations, founded on the very principle of the rights of national self-determination of people, What about the poor old Chagossians? I mean, they deserve something, don't they?
Well, yeah, I mean, so look, I mean, I'll come to the Chagossians in just a second. I think it's really important, as Joe said, there was no need for this government to do this. As you said, Jonathan Powell and possibly Peter Mandelson.
Well, isn't this interesting?
Indeed.
Yes,
what do these guys...
Yeah, because it's come out today that he was having a job.
Exactly. And so, this has been sold to the Americans as a great deal. They, sadly, in my view, didn't look into it in enough detail. I'm pleased that they are now doing that. Senator John Kennedy has done a great job, and others, I'm sure. And so you're right, it's about protecting national security. It's also about doing the right thing for the Chagossians. And we've got to make sure national security comes top. And Misley Mandarin has accepted that himself when he's been on this show. But it is entirely possible, it is feasible for them to have access potentially to other islands.
Well, the outer atolls are somewhere away.
Exactly.
Would pose no military...
That's right. And that's in line with the United Nations' own principles. And in fact, the United Nations have now come out and said that this is absolutely what the government should be doing. So for them to say that one decision of the UN is paramount over another...
And the UN were quite right in criticising Britain for how we treated the Chagossians, that we gave them no leave to return. They were...
Well, so, I mean, this is the difficult thing that, GB News viewers will understand. I'm sure that, fundamentally the British government has to keep our national and international security paramount, which in the past has meant that it was felt we couldn't allow the Chagossian people to go to any of the islands in the British Indian Ocean territory. If that position changes, then, of course,
I would argue that's nonsense. Well, because some of the outer atolls are so far away.
And you might well, and that's fine. But I think that's just the history for GB News viewers to be aware of if they aren't already.
I mean,
sorry, I was just going to say, and so if that is now changed because there is a view that, OK, this island can now be leased from Mauritius and therefore clearly it's not so necessary for that security to be maintained, then clearly the situation has also changed for the Chagossian people.
And I think, the government, if it's got any sense, can use the fact that America's gone cold on this, although it does raise questions about their due diligence, I have to say. And they can say, all right, we promised that we would do it.
All right, prediction time. We've seen U-turn after U-turn from this government.
Torvill and Dean. Round and round.
Quite. Do you think there's going to be a U-turn on this?
Yes.
Is this going to be dropped?
Yes, I think it will quietly drop because it's already been dropped in the Lords. It's been put on hold, as we know, because we've covered it a lot here, and I think it will just gently disappear.
Right. I sincerely hope that's true. I think that's probably true. And indeed, the Maldivian government are now coming in on the act and saying they want the territory themselves. So there might be a bust-up for different international law reasons
unless alone the 200-mile marine protected zone around the whole archipelago, arguably the greatest marine protected area in the whole of the world.
Backed by the UN. Do you see it again?
I know. And actually, we've done that. It's been a very, very important resource. And I fear as soon as Mauritius gets it, which is hard up with serious debt problems, there'll be licenses sold to Russia, China, and goodness knows who. That's my fear.
Look, here's the bottom line. An American senator shouldn't have to do the job of British strategic planners. John Kennedy shouldn't be the one defending British interests more vigorously than our own government. But here we are. And the fact that it took his intervention, his persistence, his willingness to personally lobby a president and a secretary of state, to stop what he rightly calls a catastrophically dumb decision tells you everything you need to know about the current state of British foreign policy. We're not thinking strategically. We're thinking symbolically. And in a world where China and Russia are thinking a decade ahead, that's how you lose. So if this story made you even slightly concerned about who's actually steering the ship, do yourself a favor, subscribe to British News Unfiltered, hit that bell icon, and let's keep holding power to account, because clearly someone needs to. Cheers for watching.